After a multi-week break, which included a wonderful award ceremony for Season 1 of 2024, the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship kicks off Season 2 tonight. As always, there are tweaks and improvements moving into a new season, and while the technical rules remain the same, there are some points and procedural adjustments that have been made. But after the closest championship points battle yet in the previous season, the need for significant changes is dwindling rapidly. And tonight we start Season 2 right where we finished last season at the majestic Virginia International Raceway. And that, folks, is a very good thing, as the racing at the recent season finale was simply phenomenal. Hi folks, I'm Greg Creamer, and welcome to VIR and Season 2. Wonderful as always to have Kyle Heyer alongside for the season. And Kyle, if what we saw at that season finale was any indicator, tonight should be absolutely spectacular.
Well, we're picking right up where we left off, Greg. VIR, yes, this is a fantastic racetrack. We got to see some amazing races, but the context of this race, or both races tonight, are completely different. We had a championship that was happening, and maybe some of the drivers were kind of staying out of the mix up in the front just to let those drivers fight, but not tonight. This is round one of many this season, which means everybody's got a shot, and it's a big field. I think we got almost 40 cars here going for victory tonight.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because if you come out of the gate with very little points and you think you're a championship contender, the season gets really long. Yes, you get drops, but you don't want to have that really bad event right out of the gate. The other thing was, the racers that weren't in the points at that season finale did a very nice job of not interfering too much. But the racers that were, it was an outright brawl. There's no reason that shouldn't pick up right where it left off. We had a new first-time champion. Camden Hibbett, a good solid second in the points. Jordan Rixagrini, who led the first third of the season, then hit some struggles. You know, Kyle, he is going to be incredibly hungry to get that turned around and get after.
Oh, he absolutely will be. And there's lots of new names here in this qualifying that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But first off, let's have a look at the racetrack here. Greg, you and I have both been here before, and it's one of our favorites. It's so fast around here, over 3 miles in length, 3.2 to be exact, 17 corners. And this is a track that has some pages missing from the history book, but it's making up for lost time.
It surely is, and it is almost like 3 different tracks. You've got that first sector all the way through start-finish to the exit of 6. That's very technical. Then from 6 all the way, really, down that long back straight they call Madison Avenue is almost its own sector. And turn 10, one of the craziest, most intense corners you're ever going to experience. And then again, from 14 in the roller coaster all the way down to the finish line, Kyle, it gets technical again with a ton of elevation change. And the climbing S's, even though they're fairly flat in these cars, they're still spectacular.
Oh, it's just such a fun section of racetrack, and it's flat out in these Mazda MX-5s. You pointed out that there's not really any technical changes to the cars as far as their fixed setup is concerned, but there are some procedural changes, Greg, you alluded to. As qualifying is underway, timing is on the left-hand side of your screen, but a couple of those rules. Week 10 is no longer counted in the 2 drop weeks now, so you can't drop the last race of the season. That will be important because you got to show up and you have to perform in that last race if you want to have a shot at the championship.
Well, that's really how it should be. If you're going to run for the championship, to have to factor in drops after that last race is unfolded, it just convolutes things a little bit. And I think the fact that they were able to make that happen, that if you're in the championship, you need to show up, race that last one, and it is going to count wherever you are. That kind of puts a little bit more emphasis on a good finish in that last race as opposed to just throwing abandon, because if you have a problem and you can drop it. I like it a lot. I think that's a great change. They've also made a change in terms of, if you have some sort of a penalty and you get penalty points, you appeal it and that gets overturned, those points get removed. And that's a big deal because you get enough of those points, as I recall, Kyle, you can end up starting the next race from pit lane, and that's a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, especially when the field is as big as it is tonight. That is not going to be what you want heading through this season. Speaking of the season, it's a long one. We're going to a lot of the same racetracks that we've seen in the past. Starting here at VIR, we're back at Homestead Miami Speedway's road course next week. Mid-Ohio is week 3. We've got an off week on May 21st. Then Sebring, Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Daytona, Homestead Miami again, Road America, and we finish at Sebring, which has put on, again, some of the best races that we've ever seen in this championship. So lots on the line, and we're going to end all the way in July. So this is a multi-month championship that will conclude just after the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And that off weekend, or off event, which would be Tuesday the 21st, it's the entire Full Send Sims team essentially will be at Fort Liberty, which is formerly Fort Bragg in North Carolina, as they're donating their time, resources to support the Veterans Trust, All-American Week. It's a really special event. This year it celebrates the men, women, and families of the legendary 82nd Airborne Division, giving them opportunities to experience motorsports and lots of fun, lots of other things too. But that's why we will have that off week. The other big piece of news here is on the during the week, the Thursdays, when there is not a driver's school, they are now going to have a group open practice. So they're just making sure, giving as much track time as possible here. I think those are all great evolutions.
I absolutely agree with that. We've got 30 cars that have times on the board here in qualifying, just over 6 minutes to go. And it's a familiar face at the top of the board, Camden Hibbett, with a 2:14.470. He's a half a second clear of Nicholas Rice-Budo in that 0-3. But Cam Eben in the 155, already in the top 5 here. And if he's running for a championship, Greg, he made an appearance a few times last season. If he's running for a championship, he's going to be one you have to circle early on.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question of that. Just the pace that he showed, particularly on a track he was really familiar with, but he was fast everywhere. He's going to be somebody. And the guy in the middle of those two cars, that green car of Olivier Piatek, he's one of those super hungry guys. He's so fast. He's had some pretty bad luck. He is the king of the starts, and he just needs to tie it all together here. And then there is a driver right now that's sitting in the 5th spot, the 68 of Lynn. I'm not familiar with him, but you said this kid's for real.
Oh yeah, Wanshi Lin. He is a current competitor in the Toyota GR Cup North America Esports Championship. Had a top 10 result at Sebring on Saturday. And I've also seen him in some other championships across SimTV in past years, but very, very talented. He's got quite the rig there. Direct drive steering wheel as well. Got the yoke on there, which is an interesting choice for a Miata. They'll be flinging around quite a bit, grabbing lots of oversteer. But Wanshi is going to be a championship competitor, at least in the top 5, and probably for podiums.
Yeah, and another guy sitting 7th right now, Trace Hans. He was the hard charger last year, and he'd like to, that generally is an indicator that maybe you're not qualifying that well, and he'd like to get that sorted, but a little bit of an off-track excursion right there, but certainly has some really good speed, and I'm sure that that's what he's going to want to be seeing. And now we see the 311 of Ortiz right back up into it, and he didn't race the whole season last season, Kyle, but when he was here, he was wicked quick.
Yeah, he started off very strong, and especially with the pace that he showed at Homestead Miami Speedway. I think it was also at Lime Rock Park that he showed some really good pace. So that's actually a track that is notably missing from the calendar this season, is Lime Rock Park, that little bull ring up in Lakeville, Connecticut. So that means that almost all these tracks are really high-speed draft tracks, and that's something that Ortiz tends to do very well at.
That's a really good point. So count him among the favorites. And of course, the guy who just jumped to 2nd in this qualifying session is our new champion, who won the championship in the first season of 2024, Nick Rice-Budo, who had an absolutely superb season. He was a point-scoring machine, and when Jordan Rixagrini leapt out early, he was just there, just easing those points around, and just continued to score and score heavily, and brought the championship home. And the first one they say is the toughest, but others will say it's brutally difficult to repeat. Morgan Burkhardt might dispute that, but we'll see what Nicholas Rice-Budo can come up with here.
Ooh, drafting by some slower traffic there. It's getting busy off into Roller Coaster, setting up runs and getting the draft off into this section. This is the fastest part of the racetrack here and at the end of the front straightaway. Just terminal velocity in these MX-5s. And we documented some of the changes that these cars have seen in the past couple of seasons in the Full Send Sims Spec Miata series to that fixed setup. And every season they have made changes that make the car racier. And while there's no technical changes to the setup this season, I think that's because they found the best balance where this car replicates a Spec Miata very well and also drafts, brakes, and accelerates a lot like a Miata should.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the goal of the Full Send Sim series. Remember, Full Send Sims, it's practice makes podium, and they really, really try to emulate Spec Miata racing. And so that's how they've got these cars dialed in. The idea is, obviously, I love that bump here. The idea is if you get in here and you drive it, you get in your Spec Miata. If you're a real-world competitor, it's going to be very much the same. And of course, Morgan Burkhardt has taken the real-world thing to a little different level as he is running. We've talked about in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge this year, and he and his teammate have shown some serious pace.
Yeah, really good start to the season for them, especially at Sebring. Here comes Morgan, though. He has not yet set a time in qualifying, and this is going to be his last opportunity to do so, and he's got lots of traffic ahead as well, so he might start mid-pack or worse if he can't get some clear road ahead. There's 5 or so other cars that have yet to get a time. Jose de las Casas, Murphy Nichols, Evan Hamitman, and Luke Law. They have also yet to put times on the board, but it's Hibbett, Rice-Budo, Piatek, and Eben, your front 2 rows as it stands with 1:30 left in the session.
Oh, yeah, and unfortunately, you see right there, Hibbett getting it all crossed up, couple of cars in front. Was that Piatek running wide?
Yes.
And I think that checked Morgan up just a little bit. Now he's going to get a huge draft, though, with these cars running side by side. We'll see if he's going to be able to do anything with it, but there's just no place for him to really go with it, Kyle.
No, not really. And then you get to roller coaster here, and some cars are peeling off and getting out of the way for Morgan Burkhardt. That will help him, and actually they're all going to get out of the way. That was about the best case scenario here, and being a 3-time champ might help with people being a bit kinder. They know what your goal is and what you're after. And Morgan will get clear road, Greg. That's nice for him.
Yeah, it sure is. And if he, it all really comes down to how badly he got held up going into and through the oak tree turn, and see what he's able to do here. But here we go. Time, he might get another lap in yet, but it doesn't matter in this. When the time's gone, it just stops. So this is really it, as you said. Interesting to see where he might pop up into the order here.
That's 2:14.884. That'll put him clear into second place with 20 seconds left on the board. So that didn't really hold him up all that bad, did it?
Yeah, that's getting it done pretty well. It's a solid lap indeed.
In traffic at VIR of all places as well.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I was surprised everybody opened up like that, because, knowing he's a 3-time champion and he is a hard racer, I'm not sure I would have felt all that bad if he started way back in the pack. But
sometimes you got to help your own self, right? And
maybe exactly
getting out of the way might have been an investment in later, perhaps.
Well, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. One of the things that one of the things that's been changed for this season, and really excited about it, are the season prizes. The first place, if you win it, and again, if you're an instructor, if you're a steward, if you're any official member of Full Send Sims in the series, you're not eligible for these prizes. Or if you won one in season 1, you're not eligible in the same calendar year. So you may not have to win to be able to get these prizes. But first place is a Sabel GT Pad race seat. I mean, how cool is that? Second place, SimLab XP1 pedals. And third place, the iFlag LED flag box. And I know you're a big fan of those.
Yeah, I should have dug mine out of the box that it's in right now, because I haven't organized my life in here yet. But I really like the iFlag system. Effectively what it is, Greg, is it's a mini flag board, just like the ones that you'd see at the side of the racetrack, the LED boards that show you the flag displays. Well, it's a mini version of that, and it plugs right into your PC, and it hooks up to iRacing or a number of other sims, and it will give you the flag states in real time. It also has the ability to show you left or right as far as spotter calls and a couple of other things, including a pit stop countdown. It's a really useful tool. I also think it just adds to the immersion. I'll hook mine up for next week and show everybody on stream. Mine's a DIY one. There are companies that produce them, and that's one of the ones that's the example that the third place driver on the season will get. But it is a really neat piece of kit. I had thought about getting several of them and hooking them up together to really bring the ambiance of motorsports into the sim room here, but have not done that yet. It's harder to get the parts DIY than it is just to buy them now, Greg. But
I would imagine, yeah.
And they come fully assembled too. So.
And you've been a bit busy with a variety of things that you've been dealing with here. But let's take a moment, Kyle. Obviously, a huge thank you to Full Send Sims, Court Schmidt and the gang for putting this together 2 years ago. And what a job it has been. And practice makes podium, and they approved that time and again. I also got to say thank you to Frank Rodriguez and 3P Logistics. They have been with us right from that first season in 2023, along with Rob Greenwood and his Final Turn Motorsports. They've been great as well. And then, of course, later on throughout 2023. We picked up Wine Country Motorsports as well, and just great sponsors really help make all of this happen, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, fantastic partners to be with us here as the pace lap gets underway. It's a long one here, 3.2 miles, but let's get started by rolling through the grid. On the front row, it's going to be Camden Hibbett in the number 132. Morgan Burkhardt starts second in that number 40, trying to grab another championship after missing out last season.
Yeah, what a lap he put in on the final lap available there. Starting third will be the 03, defending now champion Nicholas Rice-Puto, along with Olivier Piatek, driving the number 62 in fourth.
Cam Evan returns this time, hopefully going for a full season title in fifth in the 155. Wan Shi Lin, a new name to this series, but extremely experienced in lightweight rear-wheel drive. He rolls off sixth in the 68.
Starting seventh at 311, Jorge Ortiz, going to be always fun to watch him. And Dean Dibdahl will start eighth in the number 99.
And ninth place, row 5, Trace Hansen, the 53. Great qualifying effort there. Hayden Manis rolls off 10th in the number 65.
Starting 11th in the 91 will be Andrew Gilliland, and starting in the 12th spot is number 12, James Newell. 123, James Newell.
And in 13th place, Gareth Nyland, another new name here to the title. The 136 car, Max Bankin, rolls off 14th in the 00.
Starting 15th, Dylan Lee in the number 200. Great to have him along. And Jack Murchison is back. The number 25 starts 16th.
17th place, Andrew Wozencroft in the number 80. And then Michael Lauren in the number 133 starts 18th place.
Starting 19th to 23 of Beans Forrester. And of course, starting in the 20th spot, Deacon Greenfield in the number 20.
And 21st place, Tristan Cadet in the 144. Mike Schmidt rolls off 22nd in the 531.
Starting 23rd, the 89 of Jim Friedhofer. Starting in the 24th spot, the 372 of Evan Hamithman. And I'm not familiar with him either. So we have some great new entries here.
Sure do. 25th, Seth Spolman returns for another season, the 042. Andrew Guada starts 26th in the number 61 car.
Yeah, last season's most improved driver. Starting 28th is the 27 of Charles Boley. And starting in the 28th spot, the 22 of Rich Green.
And 29th place is going to be Blair Deffenbaugh, the number 106. Alex McClellan starts 30th in the number 44.
Starting 31st, the 73 of Wayne Buttermore. Starting 32nd, the number 7 is Greg Ginsberg.
33rd place, it's Joshua Clatterbuck in the 901. Sawyer Richards starts 34th in the 125 car.
Starting 35th, the 941 of Luke Law. Starting in the 36th spot, the 55 of Murphy Nichols.
And Jose de las Casas will round out the 37-car grid tonight in the number 1, starting all the way from the tail of the field. It has been a relatively short offseason, but it has felt like a lifetime for some of these drivers that have been chomping at the bit to get back to racing in MX-5s. Greg, a big grid at one of their favorite racetracks, VIR. This place is fast, but this place will bite you.
It will. I mean, we've talked about it many times. You've got to drive this almost with street course precision because there's no paved runoff. There's no gravel traps. You get off in the grass. Everything slopes away into hard things. So you've got to be really aware of it. Now, we are getting ready to go. First of our two 20-minute races. Field coming up. We're green. And Morgan Burkhardt with Olivier Piatek on his bumper, trying to shove him to the front. And right now, obviously, Camden Hibbett. Oh, and he's got pressure. Champion Rice-Puto down to the inside. That's 3 abreast. Piatek hard into the back of Burkhardt. They settled it out. Nobody going off track at this point. Amazingly enough, that was a pretty good rock.
Yeah, I think they kept everyone except for Deacon Greenfield in a straight line. He's gone around at Horseshoe, but he is back underway. Piatek sails down the inside of Gareth Nyland, jumps the curb. He was not wasting any time there at that number 62 to try to get some time back as a few cars get shuffled off. Dylan Lee in the 200, and I think Hayden Manis. That's a big bummer for him. He was started up near the top 10, I think.
Yeah, he had a good qualifying run. That's a real shame. You can see some serious damage to the back there. But yeah, Piatek, that was a pretty serious tag, and it cost him dearly. But this is something that I'm sure everybody is excited about, and that is having Morgan Burkhardt back in, I think, 4th right now. And again, Rice-Puto, boy, did he read that start to perfection.
He did, and he put himself out in front of Camden Hibbett, who is right in behind. And remember how hard Camden Hibbett fought Morgan Burkhardt at the tail end of last season. He would love to keep that number 40 behind him here. But chasing Rice-Puto through Oak Tree and up onto the Madison Avenue straightaway for the first time. This is terminal velocity. We'll see how much they stay in line and how much they choose to do battle here early on.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point with Camden in that battle with Morgan for the simple reason that, Camden lost out on those a few times with some, pretty aggressive, hard-nosed driving. But he said he learned so much from it that he felt it valuable. And now he takes a peek, dives down to the inside, heading into roller coaster. He's got Eben coming with him. And smart move there by Rice Puto. Didn't fight on Hibbett too much, because if he did, probably Eben would have been able to slide through. That was a championship judgment on that scenario.
Yeah, nice racing there, and that answers the question, were they going to race early on? Trace Hands is offline. That's a dicey place to be out wide through roller coaster and then down through hog pen, but he wrestles it back on course. He'll drop a few positions, but right side by side through there is not really much of an option, is it?
No, the fact that he only lost 3 spots is darn near miraculous. He just was able to get the control. But yeah, side by side with him on the outside, just not going to work. And look at Wozencroft. Beautiful. Boy, did he get a great start. Started 17th. He's up into 11th. But now he gets trapped on the outside a little bit.
And there's Wan Shi Lin in the 68, who has gone backwards in the early moments of this one. Not the start I'm sure he would have liked, but I think he plays really well with the racecraft, and give him a couple of laps to get sorted in this car and learn the limits of it in the field of cars around him, and I think he'll be in the mix. Look at this mess ahead of him. Andrew Gillen's in the center of it. 3 wide.
Yeah, Trace Hands tried to make that big move 3 wide to the inside, and just sort of got pinched, and he didn't lose anything, but he didn't gain much either. But another guy who's on the move is that Beans Forster. Looks to be coming up through the pack pretty aggressively as well here.
Yes, 19th
up to 11th. Yeah.
What a start there. And then look at this mess. Everyone really fighting to get in line up the hill. In an MX-5, you're flat to the floor here, but it doesn't mean you're not at the limit. You're slinging this car without really much downforce at all up over these crests where the car gets light, so you have to kind of be single file. You can do double file, but everyone's got to agree that they're going to do that before you get to the corner, and that's rare as trouble for Jorge Ortiz.
Ooh, and I thought I saw a puff of smoke at the back, so I wonder if he may have had... let's see what happened here. Did he get help, or was it just a motor? Oh. Motor went, yeah.
Right off the nose of Morgan Burkhardt. They did touch when the motor expired, but those two things were unrelated.
And that now gives a little bit of a break here to Hibbett and Rice Puto. They're up by about a second over third spot. The 155 of Eben. Burkhardt a little bit behind him, and then Piatek, Dibdahl, Hans all in pretty good formation. Oh, and a touch there. And that's Gareth Nyland. He was able to get out of it, but now this has caused all kinds of things. And that was Andrew Gilliland, who got sent spinning. Kind of came right across the nose, and Wan Shi Lin involved as well. Yeah, and that's going to knock him down the order quite a ways. And didn't really see leading up to it exactly what happened, so let's go back and see. I mean, we saw the tangle here with Nyland, but let's see. Yeah, it just kind of comes across the nose there just a little bit, and then off the bumper of Forster, and Wan Shi gets collected and all that as well. Yeah, and I think Beans, I mean, it was just nothing he could do about it, because there was the tap, and he got knocked, the 91 of Gilliland just suddenly checked up big time. You can see Beans trying to sneak his way around him, but no room. Yeah, frustrating end for Andrew Gilliland. That car is retired. So is Ortiz, obviously, with that engine expiration. So drama's in the midfield here, but up front, those front two are just trying to separate themselves and run away from Eben, Burkhardt, and Piatek. Yeah, and with all of that had unfolded there, we now have a pretty serious breakaway for that top group of 7, the top 3, and then Burkhardt, Piatek, Dibdahl, Nyland. And then there's Beans trying to make up for lost ground with Hance and Newell. So we take a look at Beans and our famous sock cam. I really like watching the footwork in these cars because it's classic heel toe downshifting here. So he won't downshift into South Bend. Well, he will actually downshift just to maybe help the rotation here. But he'll go right back up a gear. Well, I don't know, he'll stay in gear there and rev it all the way out and then down 1, maybe 2 into Oak Tree here. He's really revving that engine out, isn't he? Boy, he is keeping it in the power band. There's no question of that. At 12,000 RPM. Yeah, exactly. And the problem is you have one little misshift when you're up in that higher rev band, and things can go wrong in a big hurry here. But he seems to have it under control and pulls out. Is going to take a nice look here and sneak around on Weiland. Little side-by-side swing there with some help from Trace Hansen, the orange and blue car in the background. Now back onto the brakes again.
and some damage to the rear of that car from that stack up the previous lap.
Ooh, and Hans, what a pretty move by Hans. Just squared up beautifully, dove down to the inside, and he's going to make that one stick. That was pretty, but man, did he get a bunch of curb, but he hangs on to it.
Yeah, it seems like the more curb you hit there, the better. But if you catch it wrong, it will throw you pretty violently off course. A couple cars slow here in the final turn. I think that's Mike Schmidt in the 531 that's off pace just a touch. Scrapping for 16th and 17th spot.
Yeah, and you got it. If you grab that level of curb, the one thing you got to remember is the car's got to be pretty straight.
Yes.
You know, that's, if it isn't, it's just going to launch you.
Yeah, land all.
Watching here that.
Ooh, if you land cattywampus, you'll be in the cattails at the end, exit of 17 out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it used to be hog pen. Now I like that, cattails. Tell you, guy having a nice race here. Max Bankin doing a nice job.
Yeah, it started this race in 14th, but has kept the nose pretty clean despite all the dramas around him. He's got a little bit of a fold on the right rear corner, but probably not of his own doing. Chasing Charles Boley. This is a name I haven't seen in quite some time. He might have run with us in the past in this series, rarely, but another name that's synonymous with MX5 racing and iRacing, so not much of a surprise to see him here.
Yeah, and doing well, as you said. And for Max, what made me think that he's having a nice race is he got roughed up a couple of times and still is been able to keep it in the top 15. So,
yeah, keep it on the racetrack, point in the right direction. As Cam Eben down to the inside of Rice Sputo through Oak Tree. Hello, up into second place. Where did he come from?
Well, yeah, that margin at the front evaporated in a hurry, and of course, easy to have happen when you get the guys behind you working with you, which they clearly must have done here. And this is really, really interesting. And Evan, we know that this guy's fast, he's aggressive, and I think as a result, Rice Sputo's going, come on, give me a little help, Morgan. We want to get back through on this guy. And he's not going to go quietly, and Evan just keeps it right where he wants it. Look at Piatek, dives down to the inside, a little bounce off of Burkhardt. Now Burkhardt is going to have that little bit of an inside line here, and what does he do? I think at that point he wisely tucked back in because he was going to be way out of position.
Yeah, he conceded that pretty nicely. Hibbett's a little wide at that hog pen there. He got run down by Eben through the final corner. And then at the tail end of this pack is Dean Dibdahl. How about that, the 99? He's been quietly lurking back here, but in position in this front pack.
Yeah, we've seen some real turns of speed from him, and he's showing it again here and showing some real smarts in how he's going about it. Rice Sputo thinking about it down into turn one. Hibbett way out wide. Now you can make this rim shot work because it'll give you the inside when you get over into turn 3 and 4, and it looks like he's going to make that happen. And Rice Sputo, man, was he thinking about it, and finally had to tuck in. But again, Piatek, opportunistic, Kyle.
He is just catching everybody by surprise, and here comes Burkhardt down the inside of Rice Sputo, who is giving up spots left and right, and Burkhardt grabs a spot. Here comes Dean Dibdahl.
I'll tell you again, Rice Sputo right there, he saw how inside I think Burkhardt was, and he was going to clout that curb, and he opened the wheel up and said better to lose a spot than to get taken out here. Again, showing some real championship caliber racetrack awareness right now. But that, if he didn't do that, I'm convinced they were going to have a big coming together.
Yeah, but Piatek has just been picking everyone's pocket up here in the front, hasn't he? Just sneaking up behind him and grabbing the wallet out of the pants there. He's just sneaking up lap after lap, corner after corner, and has driven up to third place.
Well, what he's done so well is, when somebody else has sort of forced somebody and just got them offline just a little bit, he has just been decisive and pounced and doing a really nice job. Now he has got a mirror full of Burkhardt, and we'll see what's going to happen here. Dibdahl sliding back just a little bit, and now here we go. Eben, and he's got Burkhardt going with him. Piatek, what's he going to do? He trying to cover and come back on it. He's attaching his fortunes to Camden Hibbett right now.
But look at Piatek. He's got overlap here on Eben on the outside. Not a place that you really want to be here. Burkhardt's going to try to sneak up the inside, but I think, again, he's going to concede this tuck back in line. But we're seeing a lot of battling into roller coaster. I thought that they would be working together a bit more. A little wide for Hibbett, but that's been his line so far.
Yeah, he seems to just be okay with rolling that wide line. Maybe he finds he carries a bit more speed. But, yeah, I mean, not a surprise with all the drafting. You're going to see stuff into the roller coaster. But it's been a a little bit more aggressive than I thought. Here comes Evan with a little help from Piatek. Got a big push, and then Piatek says, all right, I'm going to go back to Hibbett.
Oh, little bumper cars down there. That, 3 wide out of turn 1. That's dicey.
Well, Piatek squared that up, and it just didn't quite read it that well and had that contact, but it didn't hurt him too much. And boy, he's going to have to roll it around the outside here. And nicely done by Evan, giving him just enough room. And here comes Burkhardt, steaming around the outside. What a move.
I think Evan was conceding the spot to Piatek, and Burkhardt saw Evan hit the brakes early and said, I can drive up your outside and take a spot.
Wow. We have seen some tremendously amazing opportunistic racing going on already here. That's fabulous stuff.
Yeah, really, really awesome. And Piatek continues to climb up the board, up to second place now. And Dean Dibdahl still sitting in the back there watching all this happening. In the background, Forster is now 6.4 back. He's got Nyland and Trace Hance tucked up with him, but they're not making any progress on that front pack. So unless it gets even more dramatic, this might just be our 6 that we'll have to watch. We're almost done with this race. 7 minutes to go before we race again.
By.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's impressive, too, to me is I think Dean Dibdahl might be in a great position for a potential podium here just because this up front could end in tears for a few of these guys.
Well, it's happened before in this championship.
Yes, it has.
And again, I'm just surprised at how racy they are being, because it'd be very easy in a group like this where all the drivers kind of know each other, maybe with the exception of Eben. You'd think that, hey, we know how to play this chess match. Why not just sit back and then wait for the inevitable last lap battle? But everyone is not content to sit second, third, fourth, fifth. They want to be leading this show, and we saw that pretty early on, lap 2.
Well, it's been interesting because every time, you would think, okay, somebody can maybe make the move and get around on Hibbett, but that person always tends to change partners at the last moment, and he's able to just hang on to that spot. And it has been an interesting dynamic here as we have 6 minutes, just a little over 6 minutes to go, and Burkhardt sizing up Eben here. Eben senses it, protects just a little bit. And Piatek, when he gets this close, he is so good at just making those square-up moves. This time doesn't do anything overly fraught at this point. And Rice Puto sitting back in 5th.
I like where Rice Puto is, though. I mean, he cashed some chips in, or he's going to cash some chips in later with some patience points here and earlier by letting everybody go when they wanted by. So perhaps he'll return the favor in the closing moments of this one. But we're going to be 2 laps to go next lap around, in theory, based on the time here. So you're starting to run out of positions. I don't think you can win from 5th unless there's drama. 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th. Yeah, I think you can. But P5's a little far back. So look to see the 0-3 move up.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. One, I think he's done some of those, just basically self-preservation moves. And 2, of the other guys, we've never seen Nicholas here throwing the car around, getting it too crossed up. And I think he might have some pretty good tire underneath that car here as we start this fabulous run. What a corner. That is such a great turn. South Bender, turn 10. And it is one of my commitment meters at this track. If you're not on that exit curb, you're not fast. And if you miss that, though, by a couple of inches, you're off. It's that much of a tightrope walk. And
you're off in a big way, too, because it's just a downward sloping grass hill at that point. You're along for the ride. Have a look at that track temperature.
And a blind turn in, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Have a look at the track temp. 124 degrees Fahrenheit. So you were talking about tires, Greg. They have got to be searing that on high right now every time they're grinding the tires across the surface. Here comes Piatek into roller coaster.
Well, you talked about it, wanting to lead. Look at this. Eben saying, I'll come with you here, and finally had to give it up because if he wouldn't have, Burkhardt would have slipped underneath. But Piatek, man, did he read that beautifully. And he has just been really good on those opportunistic passes. But let's see now what Camden Hibbett can do. Looks like he got through the bottom of turn 17 in Hogpen really, really well. These guys are about as stacked up as we've seen them. Right now, Dibdahl is driving through 6 windshields.
Yeah, and you can't see very well after about 2 of them. Whoa, I think that's Burkhardt off in the grass, and he's going to be late on the brakes because of that. They're 3 abreast into turn 1, and someone's getting squeezed, and around goes Cam Eben.
Yep, and that all really started, I think you said it, with Burkhardt in the grass, got in a little hot, and that bumped him into Hibbett. and that caught out Eben.
Yeah, right there. He gets pushed onto the grass. He's a bit late to his braking marker here, and there's the stack up on the inside. Just too late, too deep. Knocks into Camden, and then Camden into Eben, and around goes one of the front runners in this field. That promotes Dean Dibdahl up to 4th place, and Piatek and Burkhardt are now separated from the rest of that pack.
Yeah, and Dibdahl, as you said, up into 4th, and unfortunately for our defending champ now, Rice Puto, there's nothing he could do about that. He had to just check up, and still sits in that 5th spot, and watching, look at that move, way down to the inside by Max.
Little touch.
That was really close.
He's off track.
Oh, yep. So easy to do there if you make that move to the inside. It just completely changes your exit angle, and suddenly you've just pushed wide.
If they made those curbs half an inch narrower, you would notice. You use every inch of curbing through there. They've added some a couple years back after the repave, and drivers took note of that. And again, all the way up through the S's, that's just road. You treat it as such. It rattles the car like nothing else, but you have to treat it like road to go fast around here. Morgan Burkhardt has separated this lone gazelle from the rest of the pack here, and with a lap and a quarter to go, Piatek's going to have to be real busy looking in that rearview mirror.
Yeah, and you wonder too, with some of the aggressive moves that Piatek is, he's off track there, loses momentum. Burkhardt thinks about it, and just wasn't quite there, but we've seen Piatek really square corners up and make big aggressive moves, and that can eat up tire life just a little bit here. And coming down 1 lap to go, and can he get it done here and hang on for this one? And Hibbett's closing him down.
He has in a big way, and he's going to have a big head of steam into turn 1. Not close enough to make a move, but he will be close enough by the time we get to roller coaster, and they're braking early for turn 1. Here comes Hibbett from a long ways back.
Oh, and he ran that outside line a little bit earlier. I think it was like the 2nd lap, and he knew what kind of grip level he had down there, and he absolutely eradicated that entire gap that he had here. And he is just opening the wheel up, letting it roll speed. Look at this. I thought he was, and yeah, so did Burkhardt. Thought he was going to square up and underneath, and Morgan exited right where Hibbett wanted to go.
Oh, everyone's seen that move a couple of times. He wasn't going to catch anybody by surprise there, but he tried it, and now he's right on the heels of Burkhardt. And look who's right behind Hibbett. Dean Dibdahl has just been in the picture all race long, and it could pan out for him here with these front 3 racing as hard as they are.
Yeah, and is Rice Puto having an issue because he's suddenly losing fairly big chunks of time?
Yeah,
he's just falling backward here.
Yeah, I wonder if he had damaged the car in some way or hurt the motor, because it is not making power up the hill. That is big drama for Rice Puto, but it's 4 drivers, a quartet, that are working their way around.
Oh, and Piatek now hard onto the brakes here up into this really crucial turn. Protects the inside a little bit, and sometimes that can slow your exit. And the guy who looked like he maybe really got the exit was Camden Hibbett. Let's see here, because Burkhardt was trying to open it up on Piatek and just couldn't get the drive because of where Piatek was. Now Burkhardt shows the nose down to the inside. Hibbett goes with him here. And here we go. And now Hibbett going to try and make it 3 abreast. He gets one heck of a pull here. Down to the inside. Piatek turns in, and there was nowhere for him to go. He comes across, collects. Burkhardt, Hibbett's got it free, and guess who also got hung out to dry there? Burkhardt.
Dean Dibdahl through to 2nd place. This will be a podium for him. If he was just a hair closer, he might have had a shot at the win, but Camden Hibbett clears through the carnage. Greg, he's coming back to a checkers.
And Rice Puto jumped into 3rd as a result. You can see Burkhardt was coming with a head of steam because Rice Puto's hurt, but he had to pit. And so it's Hibbett with the win over Dean Dibdahl and Olivier Piatek. No, Rice Puto comes through for that 3rd spot, then Piatek, then Eben and Beans Forrester all the way up to the 6th spot. And what a battle between Hans and Nyland right at the line, going to Hans. Wow, what a run that was. And there's plenty more going on here. It looks like that's Bankin, and he and Mike Schmidt have been dueling for the latter bit of this race. I'm not even sure who got that. It was that close.
It was Tristan Cadet that was that lead car. 29 thousandths of a second is the answer to that question.
Wow.
And then Evan Hamitman and Dylan Lee, same difference, 29 thousandths of a second between those two as well. Wow.
So incredibly close out there. Deacon Greenfield was able to sort of ease away from that Cadet Bank and Schmidt battle and ended up in the 13th spot. But look at this move by Hibbett. And, at a certain point, Piatek has to turn, and I'm not sure he realized there was a third car there possibly, and that collected Burkhardt.
Yeah, that's tricky there. I mean, they're 3 wide. I think he knows this, but this doesn't really show how challenging this is because this is a left turn here. You have to turn in. Otherwise, he's running straight off the road. So this is just not a part of the racetrack that's designed for 3 car widths here. And that was always going to end that way once they got 3 abreast. I don't know that you could go off in here and make the corner without losing tons of time.
Yeah, and watch how close Dibdal, look, that nose-on angle, when you see it here, it's absolutely, I mean, it is a paper width. He's just going, what the heck do I do? Turn now.
Oh, my gosh.
That was incredible.
And to second place he will go with all of that considered. That was a heck of a race. That's only 1 of 2 we have yet to do tonight.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, absolutely spectacular. And, again, Camden Hibbett, who really rude, you remember in the interviews in the season finale of last season, when he had a 3 abreast moment going into turn 3, and he said, I just threw my championship away. Well, this time it worked out for him, and he finds himself with a win, and a key win now to start this season off and get those points, and I think that's going to be big inspiration for him.
Well, you bring up a big win and big points. This is crucial because over the course of the season, you've got about 10 rounds, 20 races. One of them we just finished. That's points that no one else can take back from you at this stage. So the more that you can get early on in the season, you're going to build yourself an advantage. So the fact that Camden won the race is great. The fact that he's going to start first in the second race might be even better.
I think that's very true, and he got a really good jump in the first race as well, played it well. The other thing is, I talked last year about how Nicholas Rice-Puto had just turned into a point-scoring machine. He looked like he was going to be in 5th, maybe, because he was struggling, ends up on the podium and gets third-place points. That's how you ultimately win championships.
I don't exactly know what was going on with that car, but it did seem like he was down on power. I know that in iRacing, if you got front-end damage, it can damage your oil pan. If you have an oil leak, you can reduce your power. So I've seen things like that happen. Been really rare in this car. This car in iRacing tends to be completely working or completely not working. So
pretty bulletproof.
It's either broken or it's not. But in this case, it was somewhere in between. But managing to pull a podium out of that, I always say winning a championship isn't about your good days, Greg. It's about how you minimize the bad ones.
That's exactly right. And I mean, he did a brilliant job. And, we saw him, make those, as I said, self-preservation moves early. When he opened the wheel up, said, I'll lose this spot to avoid contact. And what that allowed him to do was to be there in that position, be able to pick something up at the end, and that he did. And Dean Dibdal, that was just a really smart race. And holy cow, what an avoidance move he made to slide through there.
Yeah, here's a look at the race start again. Now watch the 40 on the outside. This is Morgan Burkhardt. And he goes down into Horseshoe here alongside Camden Hibbett, but he comes out 4th. And I didn't really get a good look at how this happened before. But they're 3 wide because of Rice-Puto going down there and off in the marbles and all the dirt and gray area. There's no grip to be had out there, Greg. And that's why Burkhardt and some contact here kept him from advancing his position.
Yeah, well, Piatek, had that, got in a little hot, had that nose contact, and the 311 there of Ortiz also got a little bit crossed up, and that really sort of messed things up here. And here was the moment when Burkhardt dropped his tire and it got in a little hot, he really didn't overrun the corner. That was just, to me, that's kind of a racing incident.
Yeah, again, I thought at first glance that he had started to break in the grass, but he didn't. They just get down here, and because of Piatek defending from the 132, I think they were just entering the corner a lot slower than Burkhardt had anticipated, and they just all came together. Again, this track is not built for 3 car widths wide, basically anywhere but the backstretch. You have to kind of concede, and we've seen drivers do that quite a bit tonight, where they were side by side into hog pen or whatnot. You have to give it up or face the result of not giving up, which is going off into the grass.
Yeah, exactly. And in that moment for Burkhardt, my first thought was that he slid wide, and that's where that contact happened. And he tracked it right around. He was a little bit off the apex, but he never hit it. never slid out. And at a certain point, obviously, Camden's got to turn. Those guys are going to do that. And you had that little concertina effect when they got together. But I'll tell you, I mean, it certainly has promoted some absolutely amazing racing. And that finish, that last lap, much like what we saw in the season finale of season 1, that last lap was just superb.
It was, but we also noted that there was contact at the front of the field, and that was one of the topics of discussion when Dean Dibdahl was chasing. We put him in the catbird seat because we've seen things come to blows at the pass. Typically, it was just at Road America where we would see that, but here it seems like it's beginning to become a thing here at VIR. I circle that because we have another race left. You have to do another 20-minute advantage. I don't know if I want to be first, second, or third. Maybe fourth is the place to be when those front three inevitably get 3 wide again.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. And I think it's, that long straight, the draft, the elevation change, if you get everything right. And then it's just so tempting because of how that 14-14A into the roller coaster, like you said, that little left-right, how that sets up. It's just so inviting. And then, like you said, there's just no room to finish it when you're 3 abreast, but everybody wants to try it.
They didn't put walls all that close to the asphalt here, but they didn't really need to because the penalty for going off here is almost as severe because the track slopes away, or the grass slopes away. You can see in this shot here, down and away from the racetrack everywhere here. It's almost like the track spline is elevated, so as soon as you drop off of it, you're out of the groove, you're off the rails, and you go for quite a big spill. And you can hit the walls in a big way here. We've seen that time and time again, but I think it's the car-to-car stuff that we've seen quite a bit tonight, Greg. So race 2 coming up here in just a moment's time. So we've learned some things about how the end of the race goes. You think we can get a clean start for race 2 as well?
Yeah, we didn't have a bad start for that first race, did we? I think you said there was 1 or 2 guys that maybe ran wide. Deacon Greenfield maybe was one of them, but otherwise I was pretty impressed considering it was looking. We had that little touch and the like, but we didn't have people just spinning off with the big one like we've seen before. And sadly, we have seen it. History has sort of shown, hasn't it, that of the 2, it's usually the second race where things get a little bit more intense and a little bit more fraught. So we'll have to see. The other thing is look at that track temp right now. It's almost 130 degrees.
I guess, is that medium rare on a steak at this stage? I mean, we're getting hot here, Greg, and I only really worry about that in the context of at the tail end of this race. Like I said earlier, you're basically searing your tires when you're sliding them around, and there's a lot of high corner speeds here where you kind of need that lateral grip, especially places like NASCAR Bend, this turn 3 here. This turn is so challenging to get right, and if you don't have the grip here and the rear end steps out, this is one of those places where you can hit the wall, and it's early in the lap and early in the race when you don't really know what the grip level is yet, so this is going to be a trouble spot, I think, in the next lap or 2.
Yeah, and the other spot where, when there is an incident, they don't happen often, but when they do, they're always massive, is coming out of the Snake when you go underneath that bridge. Because those abutments are right there. Underneath that Michelin bridge, we have seen in that guardrail off to the left, driver's right, left of the screen, some massive incidents over in there. So those are the spots. While we're on the pace lap, I want to remind everybody, this season we have our first visit, as Kyle mentioned, to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. If you're not familiar with it, on the 9th of May, there will be a group practice at Mid-Ohio. So keep that in mind. If you haven't driven Mid-Ohio, you're in for a treat. It is a true driver's track.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I noted earlier that there's no Lime Rock on the calendar. I didn't note that Mid-Ohio was new to the calendar. It's one of my favorite racetracks as well. It also is kind of a unique racetrack in many ways. It's got some speed, but it's got a lot of technicality to it, especially in the middle third of the circuit, Greg. And it's got another one of those big braking dual battles into turn 4 and 5 up into Madness. And one of my favorite parts there, it's a great opportunity for an over-under, but it leads into some very tricky track. I also would like to see this car get wet weather tires because, man, you want a real challenge? Mid-Ohio in the rain is top-notch there.
Oh, yeah, that's almost diabolical, but yeah, it is. It is really good. And, you can do what, was sort of dubbed the Paul Tracy line through the outside of 4 as well and make a pass. So there's so much going on. But the treat of Mid-Ohio is all of those blind turn-ins and the apexes over the top of really sharp crests, where the car just gets massively light, and you've got to be anticipating everything. So, yeah, it's a technical track, but as you said, that's blended with lots of speed in spots and tremendous flow. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be tough to beat, I think, this race coming up here at VIR, based on everything we've seen and how the racing has been. And this is such a glorious track. I mean, we've said it how many times that Paul Newman said if there is a heaven on earth, it's got to be VIR. And I think it was Carroll Shelby that said 1 lap at VIR was worth 100 at Watkins Glen.
Hey,
I mean, that's I know, but that's just how revered this place is.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to it. I didn't really understand it after driving in the sim, but when I got there in person and saw the texture and elevation that this racetrack has, it gave me an all-new appreciation for the flow the circuit has, and then just the raw speed of this place and how fast you're going over blind crests and into high-commitment corners. It is a fantastic racetrack, and it just puts on some amazing racing as well.
It does. It does. That draft all the way down Madison Avenue, it's great. And I know you're a big Watkins Glen boy, but I think the era that Carroll was talking about was the original Glen layout.
Yes, that's true.
Without the boot and all that, which, was fast, but it wasn't particularly challenging. It was deadly, but not challenging. So, anyway, here we go.
Pre-bus stop massacre also, if anyone's been up to the news on that.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Anyway, time to go racing.
We'll be addressing that when we get there. But now, can Camden Hibbett do it again and lead away from pole? And can he hang on and get another win? And look who's on the outside of the front row. I'm not sure Dean's ever had a front row start with us. Let's see how he handles it as we are green. Hibbett, with a little help from Rice Pudo, gets a nose ahead early, and of course just inside track position. But here comes Piatek giving Dibdall one heck of a push. And let's see what happens. I think Dibdall is thinking about, can he round up on Rice Pudo? A couple of cars a little wide back there. So far, so good, Kyle.
I think we got them all pointed the right way again. And Hibbett, Dibdall, Rice Pudo. Actually, make that Hibbett, Rice Pudo, Dibdall your top three. But Dibdall's fighting back on the inside, and he's there.
Yeah, he is. He made that work. And Rice Pudo had to dive to the inside because look at Evan coming up and trying to make the outside move. And Rice Pudo read that beautifully. And that's James Newell, who had a really good first race. We didn't talk about him much, but he had a solid run.
And Deacon Greenfield as well. He had an incident early on. Remember, he was last in turn one on lap one. He ended up finishing in 12th, so that was a great recovery.
And then a little bang and go there with with Deacon and Newell, and everybody survives that. And that's just close quarters racing here.
Oh, one car just went spearing off in a big way. Seth Spolman all the way across the racetrack, almost to the other side. And that is a nightmare for everybody here at VIR, but he managed to get it woed down.
Yeah, that just shows you how much speed you carry. You may not realize it, how fast you're going in spots here. Oh, gosh. Oh, he got so lucky, Kyle.
Yeah, and lucky that it wasn't later in the race when there's cars already on the other side of the track. But it just gets rear-ended, slowing down, just trying to probably take it easy here on this opening lap. And just
I think it was Ortiz, wasn't it?
I think so. And wow, the speed at which he takes off. Gosh. You already see the cars ahead of him turning back towards you. That's not a good feeling.
Yeah, that's got to be spooky, absolutely. So he's got his work to do now, coming from way deep in the field.
There's some more trouble off in roller coaster this time. Joshua Clatterbuck, I think, is one of them. Let's have a look at how this happened. There's a 61 of Andrew Guada also involved here.
Yeah, see what happens here.
Look out. That was the 125 of Sawyer Richards.
Oh, that was Sawyer. Oh, and he gets tipped onto his roof as well.
That was pretty wild.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, he gets clobbered here once, twice, and the 89 tips him up and over. Wow.
Yeah. That was just weird angles and physics.
Yeah, we haven't seen the underbelly of one of those. Wow, that car is destroyed.
Yeah, oh, my goodness.
Don't take me out, Coach. I can still race.
Yeah, I could do it. It's only a flesh wound.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Camden Hibbett leads the way, 0.3 of a second advantage over Rice Pudo, Dibdall, Eben, and Piatek. Where's the 40? 35th and out.
Yeah, that surprised me. I saw that too, and I was wondering what happened there.
Let's see if we can find it. It's going to probably take a moment. Oh, this was early on that he was out.
Really? Did he not start?
Oh, he did, but it was a collision extremely early. This is lap 1 into NASCAR.
Okay.
There's a collision that happens around him.
He's sweeping the outside.
Right here, gets tangled with somebody and then dragged across the road, and I think that was enough to damage the car beyond repair for Morgan Burkhardt.
Huh.
Wow.
Boy, that didn't look like a really hard hit, did it?
No, I think it might have been damage beyond repair to what I would like to drive through the field at VIR in 20 minutes, probably.
Well, that's a good point, too, yeah. And look at Piatek now. After Evan had that solid start, he and Piatek side by each here and uses Dibdal as a bit of a pick, or tries to. And Piatek having none of that and hangs on to his spot. Look at Deacon Greenfield is flying right now up into the 8th spot. He has got it booking at this stage. Nyland right there, and then Newell.
Look at his smile, too. He was really proud of himself for that one. That was a big dive and made the pass complete. He's just going to try to close the gap to Beans Forster now. But love the virtual reality setup here as well, full immersion, and especially at a place like this when it's so close quarters, knowing exactly where the corners of your car are, being able to reach out and feel like you can touch them, that's important as well.
Yeah, that helps with placement, I would think, amazingly, and he's doing a great job here. And although Nyland now gets a little bit of a run, is he going to try? Nope. I think Deacon may have braked a little earlier than Nyland was thinking. I think now he's going, oh, I should have dove to the inside there, but just couldn't make it work. And then Newell just sort of cycling behind, watching these guys, and that is 8th, 9th, and 10th, and they've got their own good little battle going. A couple of seconds behind the group up front, but pretty entertaining battle in its own right. And look at that right now. Beans Forrester has latched onto the back of Trace Hance, and they are at the back end of what is a 7-car train for the lead.
Yeah, they didn't get to fight with the front group last time because there was an accident that kind of split the herd off a bit. But he's right up in the mix now. He's at the tail end of it, though, so you can't mess around too much or you'll lose the draft. But I think he'd be happy just to cling on to 7th for now. In the next couple of minutes, work his way closer and closer to a top 5 and potentially be in position like Dean Dibdal was at the end of race 1.
There's that little downshift into South Bend or turn 10. Trace Hance up front. See the back end? Skip just for a second. That was a great save.
Heart and throat moment there.
Oh, man. Oh, what a run Beans got, but he couldn't go anywhere with it.
3 wide for the lead. Look at this,
3 abreast on the exit, Kyle.
And this is going to be a long drag race. Piatek didn't get the run he needed to make this pass, but he's going to get right in behind Rice Budo and give him a big shove. So it's going to be side by side up the backstretch up Madison Avenue again. And there's Dean Dibdal watching all of this once again in 4th place.
Yeah, just, he had 2nd for a while there, 3rd, then slipped back a little bit. But now he comes up. Oh, boy, somebody's going to have to give here. It's going to be a big one. And everybody sort of checks up a little bit. Hibbett, that was really close. Oh, look at Eben just sizing everything up and pounced on that. What a move.
Yeah, found a gap in traffic. Big jump for Piatek. He
man.
Took that skateboard all the way to the edge of the rim there and around the bottom of that thing on the curb, but keeps it facing the right direction.
Dibdal way out by himself right now. Hance with Forster right on his 6. And I think they're going to just, in that tandem draft, are they? Well, here comes Dibdal getting a little bit of pace back on him here. But it's broken that 7-car train up a bit, hasn't it? And here comes Greenfield. They're closing up in a big hurry.
Yeah, great progress there by the 20-car and Gareth Nyland. But I think Dibdal had a slowdown penalty to clear, cutting perhaps the downhill run into Hog Pen. That's a common place to get a cut course there if you're too aggressive on the curb.
Sure.
And had to give up about a 1.5 seconds worth of time as Cam Eben and Hibbett are side-by-side rubbing fenders again.
Yeah, behind them, it was Forster and Dibdal side by side, and they had a little bit of a touch. They're still side by side. And I'll tell you, Beans right there, he clouded that curb and did a great job of just giving it up a little bit, knowing if he didn't, he was going to get into the side of Dibdal. But that has literally all that side-by-side stuff. Look at Greenfield now, right on the back of Forster, and trying to find a way to sneak around and pick up that 7th spot. This is some great stuff. And up front, just we got a double little duo breakaway here, and as I say that, look how quick. Evan running wide. Did he hang on to it? He did. Wow.
Another big moment over South Bend and then into Oak Tree. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen more drama down here on this end of the racetrack. You're slowing up and having to slow and turn the car at the same time. It's a pretty tricky complex to get right, and you don't have a lot of sight lines there anymore now that the tree's gone. So it is a challenging turn when you're carrying so much speed in. As Forster and Greenfield go back side by side, they probably should get this sorted so that they don't lose the draft of Dibdall ahead. This could be an 8-car, 9-car race for the lead if everyone plays nice. And these guys are not up front. 4 for 4 here, huh?
Yeah, and that's definitely going to bring everybody behind them right up to it here. As Rice Puto looks to the inside, there's a touch, and off goes Piatek. Gathers it up, and I don't know if he's hurt bad. If the car's hurt bad, he's going to get going again.
Yeah, this just appears to me, this is wheel-to-wheel contact here. Bam, and you see it just whips the car around. No fun.
No, not at all. I mean, it's amazing he got it stopped and didn't go a lot farther down that hill. But he's lost, obviously, a lot of track position and time here. Here's Trace Hanth. Started 7th. Yeah, doing a nice job. Our hard charger last season, and as we talked about, that's usually a sign you want to qualify better, and he did. And then he drove a really good first race as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Darrell Waltrip or Larry McReynolds or whoever, maybe Michael Waltrip, came up with the catbird seat thing, or some other southernism I don't know about. I don't know what a catbird seat is, but Trace Hanth is in it right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. I have no clue what the genesis of that was, but
it's a fun term though. Everyone knows what it means.
Yeah, they just don't know
what
why.
It means. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Climbing S's. Yeah, this is getting tasty again here, and here we go. Hibbett now looking on Rice Puto. And Rice Puto way wide there.
Wide berth through the S's. You can't really run through there door to door. Very tight. Eben all over the back of Rice Puto. It didn't seem like he wanted to wait until they were past the S's to make him too wide again.
And do you think that was Rice Puto once again with Hibbett there saying, yep, I don't want any part of that. It's too early, and opened it up to let Hibbett get through without contact, and then Eben darn near jumped on it like that.
A little luck helped him in race 1, but his decisions did get him a podium in race 1.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about having some patience, especially this early in the season. You can absolutely hurt your championship efforts in this race more than you can help them. So, a 5th, a 6th, a 7th, that's not going to be detrimental to your season, but a 35th would certainly hurt.
Big time, yeah, and you can't be throwing that stuff away. And while we were watching all of that, Gareth Dylan did a nice job and snuck around on Deacon Greenfield as well. So Gareth continuing to put on a pretty impressive run here.
Tech and RT's trying to make up some ground. They're P10 and 11 at the moment, and it's a long ways back. I mean, relatively 7.8 to the leaders. I just don't know if they're going to have time to make up all of that unless things get really interesting, which they have. So I guess we'll see what happens.
And as we're watching this, I just want to point out, I've been tracking the lap times of Wan Chi Lin in the number 68. He's running almost 2 seconds a lap faster than the group of 3 or 4 cars in front of him. But he's way back in the pack, obviously, at this stage. Is Hibbett able to lock that in? And here comes Eben down to the inside. Rice Puto knows, though, you can run that outside line. It gives you position here.
Watch this.
And he checks up.
Crossover here, maybe. No, he didn't go for it. I thought he might.
Yeah, I think you saw Rice Puto break that little bit early, and I think that was exactly because he figured Eben was going to do exactly what you were talking about.
Little tire tracks left by Rice Puto on the exit of the right-hander right before Snake. You're just kind of chasing the momentum of the car through those couple of corners there, and that's why I mentioned those rumble strips needing to be exactly the width that they are, because you're really just letting the car kind of slide out to the edge of the road and then straight lining it as best you can, even through the climbing S's.
Yeah, those curbs are absolutely part of the line, and it allows you to track it flat through there. Ooh, dipped all way off, but hangs on to it through South Bend. And somehow didn't lose much time either. But that's a hard to throw moment.
Yeah. especially when you get into some of the faster cars, like you get into the high downforce prototypes, and then as soon as you go over that crest and you drop your tires in the dirt, you lose all your downforce because you're airborne. That's never a fun time.
Exactly.
It turns into upforce really quickly once you start bouncing over the bumps out there. It's not a lot of fun. But I did a multi-class league race here a couple of seasons ago as we watched the battle for the lead again. LMP2 and GT3 here. Never again. That is awful. Just dodging cars left and right.
I would think.
You get caught behind
You must have been in the LMP2 car.
Yes. And you just get trapped behind a line of GT3s down through here, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit and wait. Or send it and apologize later.
And yeah, well, there you go. And hope the stewards let it go. But I'll tell you, Rice Pudo really doing a nice job here. And every time he's made a move here, his defense has been really solid. And again, he's not overstressing the tires. Just everything he's doing here has been really smooth. And that pays off. As we were talking, I wouldn't be surprised if these temps aren't over 130 right now. And Hibbett now coming up alongside. Nope, still 129.
How hot will the drivers get, though? That's the question at the tail end of this race.
Well, and you saw right there again, Rice Pudo defended, thinking about that over-under, this time coming from Hibbett. And so Hibbett tried to counter with the outside move and then had to check that up a little bit because Evan was watching. That's just all point of the race strategy and racecraft here.
And I think in a similar vein to Road Atlanta, there are sections of this track where you kind of know what the moves are, but then you get up to roller coaster, and I think it's very similar to 10A at Road Atlanta, where you can make a pass on either side, and usually it's the unpredictable move that will win you the race, but it's hard to be unpredictable when everyone has kind of seen everything so many times. But there's just, that move into left hook there after NASCAR, everyone's seen that before, so it gets really hard to execute it when everyone knows it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. And, I have seen some people that have, sort of thrown that as a dummy and then made an absolutely brilliant sort of last-second move, into out of left hook and into 5 and 5A, but you need cooperation to make that one work.
Ortiz and Piatek, they have swapped roles here, pushy versus pusher, but it has not helped them. They have lost a bit more time to the leaders. Greenfield and Nyland are a little ways back. Probably out of draft distance at this stage, but still available to pick up some time if the front 6 or so create any more drama. There are going to be 2 laps to go this time through, Greg, and it hasn't been quite as fierce at the pointy end as it was in race 1, but something tells me we're about to see some creativity spark on the note board here.
Yeah, I think the key word you left out there was yet.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, Greenfield and Nyland in that battle for 7th and 8th, this could be one of the best battles of this entire race. They have been swapping positions frequently here. Ooh, and there you saw Rice Pudo got in a little bit deep, and Hibbett dives to the inside. Rice Pudo sensed it, opened the wheel up just a little bit again, but now is Hibbett going to try and stuff it around the outside and make that work?
Crossover. Yes, he's going to go for it. Down the inside at left hook, and not going to clear him, so it'll put him on the wrong side of the road for the right-hander here at 5. And here comes Cam Eben.
Ooh, Eben really, that's the thing. You get in those side-by-side spots there, and it's so tight, you get that curb, and it just scoots you a little bit. And everybody played pretty nice there at this stage. And how impressive is Dean Dibdahl continuing to be here as we get the big grin from Camden Hibbett. He's loving his racing.
Yeah, it's going to get real serious in a minute, so enjoy that smile while it's there. But you're right about Dean Dibdahl. He has just been a factor today, and that's about all you can ask in a field that's as strong as this, is to be in the mix, and he is absolutely there. If you run 4th place right behind this lead group of 3 every race this season, Greg, you are going to win a race at some point, just the way the cookie crumbles.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that rotation?
Yes.
He had right there? That's not necessarily a good thing, because instead of your rears driving you forward, but he seemed to make it work, and I thought that we would see Beans, who has managed to get around on Trey's Hands now and has moved up into the 5th spot. I thought we'd see him right on the back of Dibdahl, but Beans just couldn't do anything with it at that stage.
So Hibbett sitting in second. Will be coming to the white flag. Do you wait for roller coaster, or do you try to get it done earlier and defend?
Well, that's a really tough question, because if you get it done earlier, you have to be able to open the gap up a little bit here. And, defense at this place is tough. So I think it's 6-1, half a dozen of the other. I think if you got opportunity, you probably, feel you need to try it. But, man, I'd be nervous if I was leading heading down Madison Avenue, that's for sure.
Andrew Wozencroft and Luke Law have had an issue, but here comes Cam Ebbin way up the outside into Horseshoe. Going to pull even with Camden Hibbett. Little touch and contact there through turn 1.
Yeah, and he wisely didn't force the issue and just decided, all right, I'm just going to tuck right back in again. And, I don't know whether that was, I thought I was a little bit, had a little bit more space, or whether that was a little intimidation move, but he was having none of it. Is Hibbett going to dive there? No. Because if that doesn't work, one, he could get past, or two, could just lose contact with Rice Pudo. So unless something happens somewhere else on the lap, I have a feeling the entry to roller coaster is going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, Hibbett's worst nightmare would be to be battling anybody other than Rice Pudo. As soon as he gets side by side with Ebbin or Dibdahl, race over, Rice Pudo is gone. So he's got to stay focused out the windshield as best he can. But don't take an opportunity that's not going to pan out. You have to be sure it's going to work. Otherwise, you're just going to get dragged into a fight that you want no part of.
Boy, they are running so close, and if you're loaded up over one of those curves and tap the guy in front of you, it's going to be a wild ride. Look at Beans now trying the outside on Dibdahl. Now, is he going to try and park it around the outside? He does.
Oh, spin! Rice Pudo goes around.
Oh, was that with help, or was that just on his own? Wow, huge development. He's going to gather it up. He'll be maybe still in the top 10, but Hibbett and Ebbin are now going for the lead, Kyle.
And Dibdahl sitting in third place. This is, again, the perfect place to be as drivers slam fenders up for the race win. Here comes Forster, 2x2 into roller coaster.
Oh, and is somebody going to force the issue and make it 3? No, everybody settles a little bit here. And Hibbett, with position, overruns it, and Ebbin squares up underneath, but didn't get enough of a run. And again, there goes Beans with Trace Hance trying to freeze Dibdahl, and Dibdahl trying to stay in position here. Beans runs wide. Dibdahl back onto the inside here. Now it's just a drag race. And what's going to happen at the line here? Watch him coming through. Is Hibbett going to be able to hang on over Ebbin? It looks like he might, but what's going to happen behind? Look at how close it is. It is a drag race, and it looks like is it Dibdahl? Is it Forster? We don't really know yet.
Oh my gosh, Beans gets him by 8/1000ths of a second for third.
Holy cow, unbelievable at the line. Look at that grin, understandably on Beans' face. What a finish. And here comes some of this other battling coming to the line, and there's great battles everywhere on the track here as they flash through. And little tap there. Wozencroft hanging on to it, but he got knocked wide. What do they call that? The little bump and run?
Little elbows out.
Yeah,
jab
that
the rib cage there. And
wow.
Michael
Lauren, I think. Yeah.
He'll come through, and Wozencroft in 20th place. But 94,000ths of a second for the win. 8/1000ths for the last step on the podium. And here's what that looked like once again. Gosh, how close was that?
That's just unbelievable.
Where's the line here? I don't even know where.
Just right there.
Oh, was it right there on the?
I think that's it.
Oh yeah. That is cool. How close that was. I need to get a better camera angle for the finishes here. But look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, three cars on a
remarkable
blanket there.
And from this angle, it almost looks like it would be Dibdahl.
Almost.
But Beans just had to, that 8/1000ths. Of a nose to slide through. That was just stellar.
So Camden Hibbett is going to start his season off with a victory, or two, actually.
2, yeah.
So that's.
I think it's safe to say this won't be one of his drops.
No, this is going to be a good points day for him, and for Dean Dibdahl, a second and a fourth.
Yeah,
that's
solid.
Walk out of here respectively with third place points. So that's not bad at all.
And looking at, for Beans, And Cam Evan too. I mean, just showing that he is definitely going to be a player here. I hope we see him all season long. Deacon Greenfield and Gareth Nyland had an absolutely wonderful battle that Deacon was able to just nip him by 3/10 at the end. And Nicholas Rice-Puto ends up back in ninth. That after a great salvage run to third in the first race, and he was looking like another podium was on hand. But we talked about it. Things get awfully crazy in this last lap, especially coming out of Oak Tree and all the way down Madison Avenue.
Two highlights in this top 10. You mentioned Deacon Greenfield. Remember, he got spun out lap 1, turn 1, race 1, drove through the entire field to finish 6th in this race, and Murphy Nichols started last in race 1 and drove up to a top 10. How about that for Murphy Nichols in the 55? That's a heck of a show for him.
That's a fabulous run by Murphy. Yeah, with a really good his best lap. He was just really consistent. Others were running laps a little bit quicker, but he just stayed clean, and that's how it pays off. Speaking of coming from way deep in the pack, Wan Chi Lin doing a really nice job. And like I said, I'd seen him putting in lap times 1.5 to 2 seconds quicker than some of the guys in front of him about mid-race, and he darn near cracked the top 10.
Yeah, I think he'll be one to watch. He didn't really have the luck he was hoping for tonight, but the pace is there. I think he'll be in the conversation. We didn't really talk a lot about Dylan Lee, but how about Andrew Gilliland? A nice recovery after that crash in race 1, and then Wozencroft rebounding after a bit of a tangle late in the going in race number 2. Down the order here, though, Olivier Piatek, 29th. That's going to hurt after having a pretty strong start to the night.
Yeah, great first race, and then problems. And for Jorge Ortiz, he's so fast, and just seems to find himself sometimes caught up in some incidents here. But his speed is unquestioned, and this is just one of those deals where there's so many guys here that if they get a clean race, and you get all of them to have a clean race, we could have a 10-car train for the lead. I mean, it's that competitive, Kyle.
Yeah, it really is. Last look at the drivers here on the board. Morgan Burkhardt didn't pan out in either race really for him, unfortunately. Not a bad race 1, but race 2 didn't turn out for him. 35th for the number 40. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of points to make up when we head to the next round.
And the longest ride of the night in the grass, Seth Spolman.
Yeah, he went for a big ride for sure. Cam Eben came home in 5th in race 1, but it was a 2nd place in race 2. Gets up on the podium. Cam Eben, congratulations. P2 in race 2 and 2 top 5s to start off the season. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it seemed like tonight it was really racy at the front. Lots of shifting and shuffling throughout the evening. Tell me about the battles that you had up there at the very pointy end, and how you keep the cars straight when everyone's jostling around for position, especially at the very end of these things.
It's definitely difficult. It's tough to pass in some of the spots on this track. So you saw a lot of people really testing the braking zones and trying to fit a lot of cars where they don't necessarily fit. So mainly just trying to keep aware of the surroundings and giving space to all the cars around me is kind of what was going on, and mainly helped me stay out of trouble. Obviously, race 1 kind of got hit there, but I kind of just let the drama unfold around me and keep the car clean best I can just by watching my surroundings.
Well, and the other thing about this track, Kyle kind of said, in ways it bears a resemblance to Road Atlanta because, with the exception of Madison Avenue, it's constantly changing direction. So you get positioned in one corner and you could be in big trouble for the next one. So you've really got to pick your spots, don't you?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I got to ask the obvious question. Are you with us for this full season? Because if you are, man, you're certainly a championship contender, and we'd like nothing more than to see you around for the whole year.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I believe I will be able to commit to the full season. I think I'm locked in for that, so I'm just excited to get racing with the full Sen Sims team and watch back this great broadcast. Thank you guys so much for all you do for the series as well. I'm excited to be on board for the season.
We appreciate it, man, and great to have you racing with us. Look forward to seeing you around for the whole season.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. And let's talk to Beans Forster. He comes home in 3rd place in race 2, started 6th after finishing just outside the top 5 in race number 1. It was a pretty hectic race out there, Beans, especially at the end. We love watching the intensity. We had your camera pulled up there at the very end, right as you were drag racing Dean to the stripe there. How about that battle at the end there with Dean Dibdahl?
That was insanely fun. When we were coming in through roller coaster, watching the replay back, I went way too wide, and that's what gave him the space to stay just enough of a bumper on me when we were going through Hogpen. And then I pushed out wide, and I'm like, I got to choke him down. Like there's nothing I can do if I just stay out wide and roll it, then he was going to get me no matter what. So I tried to squeeze him just a little bit, maybe pick up a side draft, and I don't even know what the margin was, but I know it was close.
Well, I think we could tell you the margin as we had it was 8/1000ths of a second, dude. Yeah, unbelievably close. And this podium, I mean, was earned in a lot of ways because obviously you didn't get the qualifying you wanted in that first race, so you had to come through that much of the field to put yourself in a position to be able to do this in race 2. That's one you earned, man.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, the qualifying was definitely a big hiccup. Me and Deacon were trying to run a lap together as a pair, and we just every time we got out, and like you could really only get 3 flying laps here if you're resetting every lap, because it's almost 2.5 minute laps, and you only got 15 minutes, and it cuts off right at the end. So every time we had an out lap on our flyer, we always ran into some kind of traffic or an incident or whatnot. Just a little bump for that 0x nullifying that qualifying lap. And we just kind of started on the back foot. And then at the start, I think I made up like 6 or 7 places up through turn 3, just hugging the inside through turn 1. And then people kind of bumping around left and right behind me. So I made up some pretty good ground, more than I thought I was going to. I thought it was going to be a lot harder fight, especially with how the tires wear off. But so I kind of got a little bit lucky in race 1.
Well, lucky, but also you pulled off some nice moves, and that finish was spectacular. And as always, we need to thank you for the now legendary sock gown.
Oh yes, absolutely. I gotta start buying some funny socks. Maybe I'll wear some like Santa Claus slippers or whatnot.
There you go. We love it, man. Thanks for that.
Awesome. Thanks for the broadcast, guys.
Thanks,
well
mates.
done.
Let's talk with, let's see, who have we not chatted with that we need to yet? Where'd Piatek finish in race number 1? Well, he was 4th in race 1. So let's chat with, how about Deacon Greenfield? He finished 6th in race 2. And Deacon, I wanted to chat with you because you had such a phenomenal drive through the tail end of race 1 and then the beginning and then really all the entirety of race 2, from dead last after turn 1, lap 1, all the way back almost to a top 5. How about that? Take us through your night tonight.
Yeah, I'm actually getting ready for the Sark Mars event at VIR this weekend, so I did put in some practice this morning. Really wasn't expecting to have the pace that I did, but I just put my head down and ran through the field and did my best to catch up to my teammates.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the other part of it was, obviously, we were focusing a little bit on the battle at the very sharp end, but you and Nyland had an absolutely phenomenal race. That entire race, I mean, every time I looked at the monitor, you guys had swapped positions. That must have been a blast.
Yeah, I missed a couple shifts when I started to get away from him a bit, but I'm really thankful to Gareth for working with me and making a good race.
Yeah, it was that. Congratulations, and looking forward to seeing what you do for the rest of the season here. Always fun to watch your race, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Deacon. Let's chat now with Nicholas Rice-Sputo, who came home in 3rd in race 1, but P9 in race 2. Nicholas, the second race didn't pan out exactly the way that we thought. Actually, while we're talking to you, we didn't even get a chance to look at that replay yet, so we're going to go do that while we're chatting. But podium, at least in one race tonight, that's not a bad way to start, huh?
No, not too bad. Yeah, Camden and I were watching it in the waiting room, and it looks like it was just a little bit like accordion effect going into the corner. It looks like Cam may have touched Camden, and then it was just unfortunate. I was trying to check everyone up so I could get a run down the straight, but I mean, I checked up a little too hard.
Well, it's nice of you to fall on that sword, but that's obviously part of the game there. In that first race, you did. I thought, and I really wanted to ask you about this. I thought I saw you a number of times do some self-preservation stuff where you, to me, you sensed there was going to be a hit. And you just opened the wheel, said, I'll lose the spot now and just keep me in position here. And then you ended up with that third place finish. Was that part of the game plan?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys up front are teammates. They're working together. So, once you lose a position, like, you get freight trained by all of them. So,
yeah,
it's tough. You just got to keep your head. That's all.
Yeah, well, you did, and I mean, that first race to salvage that third was phenomenal. Did you have something mechanical go off with the car in the last lap or two?
I got a slowdown penalty.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Well, it kind of kept me out of the problems going into roller coaster, so I guess it worked out. Yeah.
Well, there's your silver lining.
More self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hate to to see what happened there coming out of Oak Tree in that second race when you were up front, but just drove another great race, and nice to be able to say with your name defending champion, and looking forward to you defending it for the season, man.
Yep. I will try my very best.
Oh, we know you will.
See you guys. Thank
See
you.
You bet.
Camden Hibbett wins both races tonight, and man, it was wild out there, Camden. Take me through the battles this evening. Really, no one holding punches back, even early on in race one. Side by side up in a roller coaster, 3 wide, contact here and there. Pretty rough and tumble, but you came out on top, maxed out points for this round. Not a bad way to start the season.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. I am not disappointed out of this one. That's for sure. No, it was a lot of fun tonight. We had a lot of, like you said, really aggressive battles, and I really wasn't expecting it for the first race of the season. But as a race car driver, when you see other drivers making those moves, you just have to counter and you have to respond. But no, it was a lot of fun tonight. It was a little bit of a rematch between the season finale last season between me and Nick. It's a shame that he ended up getting spun out of Oak Tree there. I haven't fully figured out what exactly happened, but no, super fun racing tonight. Really aggressive, yeah.
It was aggressive, and you talked about sort of reliving what happened in that season finale. Did you learn anything in that season finale that came into play tonight that helped you out?
Maybe. I know when I made it 3 wide last season, I was on the other side, so I went to the left side this time, and it worked out much better. So I guess you could count that, but it's just, yes, it was aggressive last season, but everybody had a lot on the line.
Right.
So everybody was really, I guess, cautiously aggressive. This being the first race, nobody really had a ton to lose. We still got 9 more weeks of this. You can make up some ground, so everybody was just kind of throwing punches and seeing what they could do. And honestly, it was a little bit of a different race than last season. Yes, it was a rematch with the same track, most of the same guys up front, but it was definitely I feel like it was a different style of racing tonight.
I would agree, and you read the question I asked you absolutely perfectly about that positioning. The other thing that I wanted to just run by you, because obviously you're going to be one of the front runners here. We've got some other players that are coming into it this year. Cam Evan we know is quick, but Dean Dibdahl and Trace Hance, all of these guys showing some real speed up at the front. I think this is going to take another step in terms of the competitiveness, Camden.
Yeah, and we didn't even have 2 of the really big players here tonight. Jordan Rixigrini and Josh Soto weren't here. And Nathan Nicholson wasn't here, so add those 2 to the mix, 3 to the mix, and yeah, it's going to be a really competitive season. Dean was right there kind of mid to tail end of the lead pack last season. He seems to be right there this season. Same with Trace. It's going to be a fun season, I think. We got a couple new names that hopefully will continue to progress throughout the season as well, and you can never count out Cam either with that 10.9 KI rating. He's always gonna be there. So yeah, it's gonna be a super competitive season. I'm excited. It's gonna be a long one. I think I'm gonna be here for all but one. I'll be in Atlanta for Prodigy Week that week, so I'm super excited to be prepping for that. It's gonna be a fun week. But we are. It's gonna be a fun season. I can't wait. Last season was fun. I feel like this series just keeps getting better and better with each season we go.
Well, we see that too, and Kyle, I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Camden, thanks so much for your time. It was a pleasure watching you grab a couple victories, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Greg, I mean, every season it just continued to get more and more exciting, and we started off the season, I think, in a pretty spectacular way, but we've got lots of racing left to go this year. We're really just getting things started. This runs all the way through July, as I pointed out earlier. But next week, kind of back in your home territory, Homestead Miami Speedway, then followed by Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course before an off week. So 2 very unique racetracks in 2 completely different parts of the country, and both tracks are very different than what we raced here tonight.
They are, and they're both very technical tracks. When you run Homestead A, which is not using the Oval 3 and 4, it becomes a really technical track. And we've talked about Mid-Ohio, new to the championship, and another really technical track. But Mid-Ohio, as you said, has that little bit of speed to it in spots, which really gets you up on your toes a bit too. I think it's going to be an absolutely incredible season. And from what we've seen, we said it at the top. What we saw in the season finale here just a few weeks ago was a great portent for what we're going to see here today. And I think this now is a great portent of what we're going to see through the season. It is going to be amazingly competitive. And we look forward to everybody joining us here again, with one exception on the 21st. For the next, we'll just call it 10 weeks with that one off every Tuesday night live on YouTube. It's the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship. Huge thank you to, of course, everybody at Full Send Sims, and also to our great sponsors. Final Turn Motorsports has been with us, as well as 3P Logistics supporting us once again, and of course Wine Country Motorsports, and it's going to be spectacular. Thanks so much for joining us. Once again, a big thank you to Kyle Heyer and also to Finian DeCuna for all of the great camera work he does. I'm Greg Kramer. We'll see you next Tuesday night for more of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship.